The following is an original audio series from Sierra International Machinery, Pile of Scrap, with your host, John Sacco.
Okay, I'm here in St. Louis, Missouri with Leonard Zeid.
Pleasure to see you, John. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for wanting to do the podcast. We're getting some traction with the podcast, but there's a big piece of our puzzle missing, and that's the topic of paper. And since you're the president of the PSI chapter, boy, that's a tongue twister, the PSI chapter, you're the perfect guy.
Well, Paper Stock Industries is obviously promoting paper and recycled paper, everything about recycled paper. So I'm happy here to talk to you and answer any questions you might have.
Well, I think this is great, and thank you. And all right, the biggest question going into the election in 2020 is, in my opinion, what do you do with the pizza box?
Those election night pizza boxes.
Yeah, I mean, the president's got to make a stand, the candidate. All right, the reason why I bring this up, you know, at Sierra, we handle paper and cardboard. You've actually bought some of our cardboard in the past. And have you? Wait a minute.
No, I bought some paper.
Yes,
from
you did. Yes,
Not
you did.
enough, and I could buy some tomorrow.
Okay, so, all right, for full transparency, I'd like listeners to know, you don't own any Sierra equipment,
No.
but we do business. We have, and we always talk, and we share information, which is great. But the pizza box, I did an interview with someone who said, pizza box, greasy, dirty, throw it away, okay? Then I've talked to other people who said, oh, no, we take it.
Pizza boxes are recyclable. With that said, most of the major mills, such as Pratt, Westrock, and others, accept it in their corrugated in their residential stream. However, there are a few municipalities that don't accept it because they may have drop-off bins in their community, more rural communities, and they don't get picked up as quickly. So those boxes stay in there, and then the rodents come, and they don't want to have a resident opening up that drop-off box and having a big rat come out. But the box itself is recyclable, not the slick paper in it. We want you to remove all the food items out of it, but the box is recyclable.
So how come Domino's and Pizza Hut and all these places that deliver pizza have yet to put that in any of their advertising, that our pizza box is recyclable if you please do this? Why haven't they done that?
I think there was a reluctance at first to do it because of contamination problems, but I think if you look at the mills that make them and the mills that use them, we'd all tell you they're recyclable. It's interesting you should say that because there are other companies who have products that are saying may be recyclable or even claiming to be recyclable that are not economically recyclable.
So that segues into, you know, economical recycling. What is and what isn't? The cup. Starbucks and Peet's Coffee, Blue Bottle Coffee, coffee all over America, all these coffee at McDonald's, it doesn't matter. It's everywhere. There's this battle line. Yes, it is. No, it isn't recyclable, the coffee cup. So we've cleared up pizza box. You put a clean pizza box with no pizza, no food droppings, no that plastic
Slick paper.
You take that out, it's a good quality OCC.
Yes.
Okay. Coffee cup now. What's the reality? What are we being told as the public, Leonard? And what's reality?
Many of the fast food chains would like to tell you that they're recyclable, but most mills don't want to accept them as a whole load of cups because there's a poly liner in those cups. There are some mills that can handle it depending on the kind of batch systems they have, but there's also the lid, the plastic lid that comes with the cup. To me, they always say their consumers want these items recycled. I say if their consumers are if their consumers are environmentally conscious, then you should have a recycled content in your cup. Because many of these places don't have any. Some might have 10%.
So you're saying, okay, instead of focusing on is that coffee cup actually could be put into the recycling stream and made into new, that coffee cup should be made from more recyclable product.
That's right. In some cases, they don't have any in it.
Okay, why?
Because if you ask certain companies, they'll tell you that'll raise the cost of the coffee. And I say that if their consumers are environmentally conscious and want them to be concerned about recycling, they'll pay a penny more for their coffee.
Well, won't that drive the clever marketing gurus from whatever coffee house to say in their ads and their marketing and whatever, hey, our coffee cup is made from X amount of percent of, that's an opportunity for somebody.
It is.
Raise the price. People are willing, the environmentally conscious. Look, big corporations today take it very seriously who they have speaking for them, in case somebody gets in trouble, they cut that spokesperson, the endorsement person, as well as now, there's so many issues, big corporations, and environmental sustainability. And so I'm wondering, now let's get away from coffee cups and go into other products that are manufactured. Do you see a push in the U.S. products that are being put on the shelves to have more recycled content in the product that is actually being sold, or are we still light years away from that?
100%. I think we're seeing it in a lot of categories. Food packaging is certainly concentrating on how to limit the amount of plastic and how to increase recycled content. Graphic packaging, I know, is doing a lot in their food packaging efforts, as well as some other mills. I know that the mills themselves are working on ways with their customers to add recycled content where they can. There are companies like Pratt and WestRock and Green Bay Packaging that make products that are 100% recycled.
And what are they making? So I'm John Q. Public, and you just named three mills: Pratt, WestRock, Green Bay Packaging. I thought you were going to say Green Bay Packers, but okay. I'm a Packer fan. Sorry, you St. Louis. You lost your football team, so you guys are in hell out here.
What happened to Oakland? Sorry.
Well, I'm not a Raider fan. I can care less about them. But what do they make? What products are they making that John Q. Public goes in and goes, oh, wow, I didn't know this is where it came from. What are they making? What you got any, for instances? Because people want to know.
I mean, whenever they get a package from Amazon,
okay,
they're usually getting it in a box.
Yes.
And that box is usually made out of recycled material from one of the companies that you just named, as well as a host of others that are all in the e-commerce segment of containerboard.
Is Amazon doing their bit for environmental sustainability?
They are actually. They're continuing to try and find better ways to save money and be more environmentally conscious. This year, even though they sold more items than they did last year, they actually purchased less boxes because they're looking at alternative packaging.
But is that alternative packaging recyclable? Is that alternative packaging made from recycled products? And does it leave a bigger footprint?
That is the big question. If they go to, for example, a paper envelope that has bubble wrap inside of it, that is not as recyclable.
No, it's contaminated. It's cross-contaminated product.
Exactly. But they are trying to find ways to use less material, even when they use a box, to right-size their box and do other things. Okay,
so the biggest company that recycles used to be, and I'm taking Waste Management out of this because they have the MRFs that run all the different, the collection, but isn't Walmart the largest recycler with all the paper who's the largest?
Walmart probably generates more corrugated than any other company in the United States.
So they're doing their share of.
And they are also trying to get to zero waste, sustainability. And they have programs where they bundle all their recyclable products in what they call sandwich bales, and then they go to processes where they're separated out, sorted, and sold. Aspirational recycling. Yeah.
So what is the real number then, Leonard? Let's be real, because you know what? Everybody would love to hear zero waste. That's a tough pill for me to swallow. I can't believe we can actually get to zero waste because there's just still at this moment too many products that are so contaminated, so cross-contaminated with different products, paper, plastic, and steel on something. And I mean, there's a variety of things that really you're never going to be able, it's going to go to landfill. So what does zero waste really look like?
It's a question of whether something can be economically recycled in many cases. That's really what it comes down to.
Well, let's talk about
that. If the generator of that material is willing to pay the processing costs to have that material separated and sorted, then you can reach a higher level of recyclability.
All right, well, let's talk about that, because economical recycling, the value of commodities across the board in all the recycling industry, from scrap iron, copper, aluminum's not doing well.
Do you know, for the first time that I can recall, a dairy plastic dairy bottle, which we call number 2 clear, is actually worth more than aluminum on a per pound basis.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, that's really unusual.
Okay.
That tells you the state of things.
Yeah, it's definitely different. So here's where I'm going with this. Paper products. Look, we handle paper, and I've not experienced cardboard at the pricing levels. We're not supposed to talk pricing, I suppose, but it's the lowest I've ever seen it. Okay? Now, is this a result of, as a nation, or let's take North America or just stick to the U.S., we've built so many MRFs, so much blue bin recycling, so much push into the consciousness of the individual consumer for recycling. And it's happening, but the problem is we're putting far more supply of recycled paper than there is demand for this paper. Is that a net effect of what we're seeing?
Well, what we're seeing is a system that was designed on collection and not on the demand side. You know, the recycling has several arrows to it, and we worked on the collection, but we haven't worked on the demand.
Why?
When people in their homes want to recycle, the first thing they think of is they go to their bin. They don't go to the store and say, which of these products that I'm going to buy, which tissue, which toweling, you know, what products are made out of recycled content. If people did more of that and increased the demand for recycling, the rest of the system would take care of itself.
Is there, okay, let's say...
If you're talking about, you know, 47 million tons of collected paper last year, you know, we can only use so much of that in the United States.
How much can we use?
So we use approximately, in 2018, we only used about we only exported 19 million out of the 47 million tons.
All right, and where did the other...
domestic. Those were,
okay.
19 million went to export, the rest was domestically used. And this year, by the way, out of that 47 million tons, the predominant amount of that, 2/3 of that paper was OCC that was collected.
Cardboard, for those who don't know what OCC is, old corrugated containers.
So 32 million tons of OCC was collected, and of that 32 million tons, only 20 million tons was used in the United States. The balance of it was shipped to Indonesia, Vietnam, China.
How much of that was consumed by a mill? Do you know?
Well, we're saying domestic mills, they consume 20 million.
How much was collected of that? Okay, in other words, what I'm trying to say is there's a glut out there because the price is... So how much is sitting in warehouses? What percentage now, if you, let's just use for easy figuring, for every 1,000 tons of cardboard being collected, how much is it actually going to be consumed in the same year instead of having to be warehoused or stored?
Well, I understand where you're going with this. And the bottom line is that there is not enough demand to meet the supply of corrugated and mixed paper that's collected out there.
Right.
And so there is some of it, and some communities are going to a landfill with it.
So
and some people are sitting on it.
So the adverse effect of being great in collecting and trying to keep it from the landfill, there's an adverse effect to where now the commodity values are so low, the cost of going through the MRF and recycling it exceeds the value. And now, okay, one of the people I podcasted with, Jason Young from the Allen Company, told me that in Los Angeles, now this is Los Angeles, a more expensive place to do business. California's more expensive. But yet he said the blue bin recycling costs $130 a ton for separation. So let's just say in the Midwest it's less. A lot of these commodities, these paper products, aren't even close to $100 a ton as far as value goes. So how do we bridge that gap? What's going to have to happen? Because if communities don't want to pay for it, that stuff's going to go straight to the landfill.
Well, it wasn't always this way, as you know. Prices took a big drop when China decided to drop out of the market of purchasing recyclable materials directly. And so they will end up needing the fiber, but they're going to take it in a different form. Instead of us shipping our corrugated to China, we're going to ship it to Indonesia, India, places in the United States that'll process it and clean it up and then send it over there. Okay. So I think it's just a matter of time for those new trade routes to be designed. I think we have a tariff problem with China right now, which is also slowing things down, slowing down their economy, so their need for fiber isn't that great right now. But they will need fiber. and that will clear up a lot of this. But the bottom line is, it costs, right now, it costs to recycle.
Well, there's a cost.
Communities have to realize that. If they want to continue recycling, they're going to have a budget and a cost versus sending it in the landfill.
Okay. I think that's important because people love to say to me when they ask me what I do, I'm in the recycling business, and they say, oh, I do my bit, I recycle, and I kind of went, okay, well, it must be a great business. I go, well, what they don't know is the true cost and the millions of dollars that go into these plants for these MRFs and all collection, everything that has to do with separating stuff out of the stream going to the landfill. It's a commodity. Paper's a commodity. It's not waste. It's an actual commodity. So I want to clarify that way. Scrap is not waste. And paper, some people call it waste paper. Scrap, they don't like that word, but recycled paper is not waste because it actually has a value. Now, granted, it may have a value below the cost of production. It still has a value, so we can't call it waste.
Correct.
When are new mills going to be, when's the investment in the United States and North America happening? When are we going to be building?
We have new mills that are being built right now.
Where
Pratt just opened up a brand new mill in Ohio. Green Bay Packaging is building a brand new facility that'll be open in 2021.
Where is that going to be?
That's going to be in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Excellent.
You've got McKinley Paper is opening up a new mill probably in the next quarter or 2 quarters up in Washington State, in Port Angeles. Biopapel's expanding mills in Mexico. WestRock just built a new mill in Monterey. There are mills that are just coming online that the Chinese bought that were closed, like Whitcliffe, Kentucky, and up in Byron, Wisconsin, and up in Maine. And so there are new mills coming online in the United States.
All right, so for me
capacity.
And for those going to listen to this podcast, Leonard, these new mills, what percentage of their product to make new paper products is going to be from recycled paper?
The ones I just named are 100% recycled.
Well, that's fantastic. So now, that's how many tons will that be? What you named, how many tons is that going to be? Because we know a steel mill melts between 60 to 100,000 tons a month. Okay,
Those
what
mills
are these mills
on average are between 30 and 40,000 tons a month.
That's significant.
Yeah, and those are tons that are not being purchased right now. So they will either be taking market share or pulling tons that are not being purchased right now. So that's going to help the market. Pratt certainly has helped the market in the Midwest by opening up their mill in Valparaiso several years ago, and now in Ohio, which has been fantastic. And then of course Byron, there's a mill in Appleton, Wisconsin that opened up recently, a mill up in the Upper Peninsula that opened up recently. And by the way, several of these mills were mills that were shut down at one time.
Okay, so I think good news, sounds like good news is on the horizon. So maybe with all these new production mills coming on, this is going to be a good thing. So, okay, let's talk about paper. From recycled paper, what is the #1 product made today in the United States that the consumers are buying that is really made from recycled paper?
Well, container board.
Container board.
Boxes is by far the biggest item.
What's next?
A lot of the paper packaging that they buy things in.
Okay.
For example, toothpaste comes in a folding carton box. And,
Right.
Candy, all those things, they all add up. They're all significant.
Well,
And some are made out of, a lot of them are made out of recycled product.
Okay, what about at like fast foods that have the napkins now? What does
Good
that
question. When you go to a fast food restaurant or you go to a sports stadium,
Okay.
and you get a napkin, sometimes they're white, sometimes
They're brown.
The brown are made brown because those companies that are purchasing them want people to know that they're made out of recycle, and they figure if they look brown, people will consider that and know that they're made out of recycled content. Yet there are a lot of napkins that are made out of white and tissue and toweling that are made white that use other products like sorted office paper and things like that to make them white. There is a lot, but unfortunately, what happened in the tissue business was people were worried about there being enough office paper to make tissue and toweling, and the mills were worried that they would run out of supply because everybody was using less and less paper.
Okay.
So some of the new tissue mills that came online recently use virgin pulp, and so or they have an ability to swap back and forth.
So
as they did that, China said we're not going to buy any more SOP, which they use for duplex board over there. which all came back in the United States.
How many tons was that?
You know, I wish I could give you an example, but thousands of
Okay,
tons.
so
Tens
now
of thousands of tons.
all that paper. Okay, but if you're making tissue, don't you want a cheap virgin material like steel mills?
No, you
they
do.
love when scrap prices are down.
Oh, the mills love, the mills that buy sort of office paper in this country love the fact that it's dropped significantly, a third to half the value over the last number of months. But, as I said, several of the mills had turned to go to another direction. And,
Well, when
and one of the large mills that bought sorted office paper was recently bought by the Chinese, and who were taking and buying mixed paper instead, so they can make a product that they can, clean product they can send to China. So those several thousand tons a month are back in the marketplace again.
Okay. Where's the future going of recycled paper? Where when you see all the things, all new products and packaging and what have you, as the United States, we're a big consumer country, and Jason Schenker, who was on my podcast that was just released, said that he doesn't believe the United States is going to go into a recession because the United States spends a lot of money. The consumers buy a lot of products. So where's paper going? What new thing that you've seen or heard that's going to be really unique for paper recycling? It's going to enhance it.
Well, in the short term, everybody looked at the e-commerce as being the big thing for the containerboard business, and it had grown for the last 10 years at about 2.5% a year. Well, this last year it's flat because people they're looking at alternative packaging and so forth. So the containerboard business is relatively flat right now, but it's going to come back. And I believe in America. I believe in the youth of America, and I think our kids are more conscious about environmentally recycling. And I think they're going to demand more products made out of recycled content. And I think that will pull the demand side, will help the supply.
I just thought of something. iPhone, Apple. The box that the Apple iPhone comes in, it's a very thick cardboard box. Is that made from recycled fiber?
I don't know. But I know Apple's very environmentally conscious.
Well, I know they are.
But I don't know
curious.
the answer to that question.
So should not American consumers should be asking that of the companies they're buying their products from, that they demand that the products that they buy come in a recycled?
Yes. It has to be driven by the consumer because they're the ones the corporations are listening to. And if they don't care, the corporation isn't going to care.
What about government? What's government's role in there? Now look, I don't want government in our business. They already drive it.
I think that is really the answer. It needs to come from the consumer. We don't want the government in our business. Every time they step in, even when they think they're doing something positive, as maybe you and I would think so on the recycling side, there's always these unintended consequences down the road. Just like the energy tax credit had alternative consequences that they hadn't planned on. And when the Clinton-Gore administration was in and they decided to raise the amount of recycled content in government paper, there was such a demand that prices for recycled content for recycled paper went through the roof, and so the cost of the paper went through the roof. The government couldn't afford it anymore. They're the largest purchaser of paper in the country, so they had to cut back on the recycled content again.
It's interesting, in our discussion, there's so many unintended consequences from recycling. From wanting to do it, creating the low values, from doing it as the government did on the Clinton-Gore, and now the cost of that paper is so much more than the regular paper out of the virgin paper. So that's fairly interesting. I got here, I saw this, and I wanted to bring this to your attention. May, June, Scrap Magazine from the Trade Association, ISRI, Institute of Scrap Recycling Industry, 2014. And it's a cover that says the quality question: can cleaner bales reverse the decline in export paper demand? I don't think we heeded this warning because export paper demand is.
We've been telling paper stock industries, chapter and ISRI have been telling people that we have to maintain our quality because what we're seeing right now is other countries that are starting to buy our product are saying, well, if China is only going to take 0.5% of contaminants, we only want 0.5%. We don't want somebody else's junk in our country. And so we have to have better quality or we will close off markets to ourselves. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And I think by and large, the processing plants in this country have a lot of good players, and they're all heating that, and the quality today, whether it goes export or domestically, has gotten better. And I have to say, that's a tough thing to do when the price of the material keeps going down, to tell somebody they need to add another sorter or spend another few $1,000,000 on optical sorters when the value of the material has gone down.
Well, that's true. You know, some of the balers that we've sold into MRFs, there has been a major upgrade in sorting systems in the optical sorting, you know, for plastics as well as paper. I mean, you know, we're focusing on paper on this podcast, but they've spent a lot of money to try to enhance the productivity of their sort and keeping it cleaner. But maybe it'd be too little too late.
No, I don't think so, because I think we need fiber out there. I just think we have to keep pressing on it. I think the economic conditions have led to some of this also. But I do think we're going to work our way out of it. Like I said, we have a lot of very positive, great processors out there, big companies and small companies that are doing a lot to clean things up. We're starting to see robotics in our plants now, as well as the optical sorters. So we keep trying to find more technology to do it better and make it cleaner.
But
I have to say one thing.
Go ahead. No, go, please.
And that is that, again, it goes back to the residences and consumer products. You know, we all want to recycle, but sometimes we have this aspirational recycling, which you mentioned before. We want something to be recycled, and so we throw it in the bin. You know, we have these electric lights from Christmas that don't work anymore. Well, they have copper in them. They're plastic. We'll throw them in the bin. And so we have to get rid of aspirational recycling. In order for our recycling program to work, you know, when in doubt, throw it out. Don't throw it in the recycling bin. Let's let the quality problem starts at the residents. It's what they're putting in the bins that shouldn't be there.
Okay, so
bowling balls. You know, I was talking to some folks at Waste Management. They get thousands of tons of bowling balls every year.
What do they do with them?
Recycling stream. They have to go to landfill. You know, if they recycle those, I don't know.
Can't they make cannonballs out of them? Just kidding. Okay, you know, it's fascinating because paper, you know, I'm sitting here in your office, and as I look around your office, you know, I see all the ribbons or the badges from all the ISRI shows, and you know, all the great paper products. And you know what? As much as you see paperless, you know, go paperless, Citibank, you know, or Wells Fargo, go paperless with your report. You know, all the electronic age is great, but it gets hacked, and people like to get that hard copy.
Yeah, you know, using paper is not a bad thing. Paper comes from trees that are a renewable resource. We grow trees. We're not going to the rainforest of Amazon to get trees to make paper out of. You know, we in the United States grow our trees in an environmentally responsible way, and for every tree that gets pulled out and cut down to make paper out of, they're planting more trees in its place. It's a plantation, and so you are raising trees to harvest and replacing them. No more than you'd say, don't eat corn because you cut down the husk. It's a renewable resource, get planted again.
All right, but okay, I think we should review this a little bit. Trees are being planted, they're being farmed for paper, okay? Very simple. Corn, feed for animals and for food products. Trees, paper product. What's most cost effective? Is it cheaper to plant a tree, grow it, put it through a mill and make new paper, or is it cheaper to take recyclable paper? Because there's two industries here. You know, there's people who get their job from planting trees and then harvesting those trees and running them through the mills. You know, there are people who have jobs and it's not a bad job. This is not a dirty job that like some people would like to say, because it's planted for the purpose of making paper. So where's the balance there, Leonard?
Well, I think it really depends on the product that you're making to some extent, the amount of recycled content you can put in that product. For example, there are boxes that are made out of 100% recycled fiber. Some are made out of mixed paper. That tends to be more lightweight packaging, where the products that are made out of pulp usually tend to be a heavier weight. That's not a rule, and I don't know the exact mixture. I just know there are companies out there that have 100% recycled mills, and they also have mills that are a blend, that have maybe 70 or 80% wood and 20% recycled content.
So we're not really destroying the planet, are we? When we take trees from a tree farm.
No, we're not. But when we make a product, a paper product, out of those trees, the good thing is that we're recycling it and we're using it. Sometimes that paper gets recycled up to 7 times.
So it's a life cycle of 7 times. So you could take a virgin tree, plant and make cardboard, a big box for your appliance, TV box. You buy a big 80-inch TV for your Super Bowl, Christmas is coming, and there's going to be a lot of cardboard and paper at Christmas, right?
That's true.
Okay, and Hanukkah, let's not forget our friends, right?
You saved me from making that comment. Thank you, John.
Well, my dad's partner was Boris Rosenberg, so I grew up knowing when Hanukkah and Christmas was always, the same thing. But anyway, 7 times life cycle. So it seems to me that the world of paper actually is very sustainable from the standpoint of growing trees, very sustainable from the paper being reused because it has you could reuse it 7 times. I think people need to know that. I think people need to know, A, we're not destroying the planet, and sometimes you need a little heavier. You can't use all the cardboard to make all the new paper, can you?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I think we have to be people have to have reasonable expectations that, A, we're not destroying the planet when we harvest trees that are grown for that purpose, because not everything can be made from recycled paper. We need more products from recycled paper, there's no question. We need more of that to help that flow because we have a glut right now. We do need.
That's the big difference when you see communities that say, we don't want people to use shopping bags and we're going to tax them, and they tax plastic bags and they tax paper bags. The two are totally different. One gets back into the recycling stream used over and over again, and one ends up going into a landfill. So, it's totally different. Paper and plastic, always use paper.
Wouldn't people say, the plastic makers, that plastic is recyclable?
I'm not sure that grade of plastic. There are some homes for it, but the majority of it is difficult to recycle. Again, you're talking about economically recycling, and those plastic bags get into a MRF, they get around the gears, they get in the conveyors, and they create a lot of problems. And so they're not something that MRFs like to handle.
All right, well, we've had a great discussion here. I want to wrap it up, but I want to go back to something. I want you to tell me what's the most clever use of paper and the recycling into a new product that you have seen.
They're actually trying to find ways to put beer cans using a paper product, unlike a regular 6-pack tote.
Okay.
They're using it for that. I'd say the other thing that's really come online now is when people they order from a company that sends them everything they need to do to cook a meal, and it comes in a box. It used to have styrofoam in it.
Okay.
There are some companies now that are starting to use a paper molded fiber product that provides the insulation they need that holds the temperature. That's probably a pretty major change.
So a fiber product that actually retains the temperature, because that's important. Styrofoam is an insulator.
Right.
So now we're making an actual product from paper that insulates as well as styrofoam.
But one of the biggest insulators out there is paper. If you look in a lot of people's attic, what they're blowing up there is paper, newspaper. That's been treated with a boracic acid so that it doesn't burn, also keeps termites away. But a lot of insulation is made out of cellulose, which is newspaper. So it's a good insulator, it's a good product. Egg cartons. When you go to the grocery store and you have a choice of taking your eggs in a molded fiber carton that's probably been made out of newspaper, or getting a plastic or getting a styrofoam container, if you really want to do the environmentally conscious thing, you'll buy the ones that come in the cellulose, the molded fiber.
Fantastic. We buy all our eggs with that because the organic eggs come in that box. You don't find it in the styrofoam box. That's funny. Because I know in my house, because I like to cook, and so I know when I pull out the egg carton, it's always that fiber container. Fascinating. All right, Leonard, listen, last word to you. As people who listen to this podcast, we've talked about all the different things about paper. What's something you want people to understand that maybe we didn't cover today about paper that they really need to know?
I think it's actually one of the things we did cover, and that is that if you're interested in recycling, if you want to be in an environmentally conscious household, use those terms again, then I think you need to get away from wishful or aspirational recycling and you need to put the things in the bin that can be recycled. Keep it simple. When in doubt, throw it out.
Fantastic.
Those are the things I'd say.
Leonard, thank you for this. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this because it was educational for me. As much as I'm in the recycling industry, I don't know paper as well as you do. I thank you for your time. Appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you very much, John.
And all right,
Appreciate
well,
you coming out.
that's another episode of Pile of Scrap.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, Leonard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been a Sierra International Machinery original audio series. Thanks for listening. Please share this podcast and make sure to subscribe.